Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us for another great marketing series webinar put on by No Boundaries Marketing. We have Chris Amos here, and he, obviously, if you've tuned in before, he does a fantastic job. We will be recording this session, so if you missed something or you want to go back, you'll be able to find it on the City of Surprise Economic Development YouTube channel. And today we are going to talk about e-commerce websites and best practices. So if you are selling anything online or you're thinking about selling anything online, this is definitely worth your time to listen to. So welcome, Chris.
Awesome. Thank you, ma'am. I appreciate you. So today's course, like Julie, excuse me, alluded to, we are going to chat about e-commerce websites. So for those who have attended my classes before, we talk about website best practices. And so I'll try my best to kind of highlight or recap some of those. But again, we really want to focus specifically on e-commerce today because e-commerce is obviously the direction of the future. This is where more and more merchant traffic or consumer traffic is going. So again, last quarter alone, last statistic that I can recall was e-commerce last quarter was up 33%, which again is huge, huge, huge. So, so without further ado, let's go ahead and get started here. So a couple of things that we like to talk about here. There's a lot of different platforms for people to use. And so, or for businesses, to use. Now, we don't want to get I want to clarify a couple of things here because this is where things get confusing. A lot of people don't understand how basically a platform works or integrates in with a website or vice versa, or what the whole thing looks like. So we're going to really simplify this here by saying a website is the core foundation of the business. And then from there, you have a cart option. Now, some of these platforms here include everything in one, others don't. And so like an example is BigCommerce, WooCommerce. You can either do a standalone site and plug their platforms into it or their cart features into it, or you can use their platform to build off of. Same thing with Squarespace, Shopify, stuff like that. Those are some pretty common, big, well-known brands. Now, as a best practice, we always try to teach clients that we want to be as independent as possible. So anytime you're using another platform's, basically their plug and play or templated sites, they're exactly that. They're templated. There's going to be limitations. And so, it's one of those buyer beware type things. So for somebody just getting into the game, again, Shopify, super, super easy platform to work with. Tons and tons of versatile features. I mean, it's a great thing. WooCommerce, same thing, lots of great stuff. Any of these. And then you can see this is only a small number of the actual e-commerce platforms out there. Now, as I always like to say, pro status is where you build your own independent WordPress site and then you use their cart features. So, for example, as an agency, that's how we build. So I don't build, Shopify templated sites only because I know what the limitations of those are long term. I don't build independent Squarespace sites only because, again, they're templated and there's some limitations long term. We try to build every client's website on WordPress. And that's just, again, strong foundation, tons of versatility. It's a better way to go. And then again, from an e-commerce side, we actually use the plugins for WooCommerce or BigCommerce or, whatever platform a client wants to use. So again, just to make that distinguishing clarification is that the core website, we recommend building on WordPress. And then the cart feature, we recommend, again, using any one of these. And again, it's really whatever is easiest for you. A lot of clients will ask us, well, what do you guys recommend? What do you prefer to work on? I don't endorse any of it really does come down to client's preference. However, we do a lot of WooCommerce. And the only reason being is, first of all, it's super, super affordable. They have a ton of cart features. It's very easy to work with. So from a simplicity standpoint, I tend to recommend WooCommerce. Although BigCommerce is amazing, Shopify, people are really, really, knowledgeable. That's a very easy platform to use as well. There's also some point of sale features with that. Squarespace, again, another one. So Wix, that's just a drag and drop builder. So again, that's kind of a DIY type site. But overall, like I said, no matter what direction you go, there's really some key core components of that you have to take into consideration. So we'll kind of touch base on that. If anybody has any questions, I know that was an oversimplification of kind of how the process works, but just remember, pro status is you build your WordPress site and then you plug in your cart, and then that's going to be more or less your best path for success. If that's not an option for you, maybe you're not as versed in WordPress, or you just prefer the simplicity of a drag and drop builder and an all-in-one type option. Again, any one of these, Shopify, Squarespace, they're all fantastic programs. So again, I don't think you'll have any or many issues with that. Now, when it comes to the actual website, again, we have to look at the best practices, because it really, at this point, you've already made that decision to move forward. And so you're going to try to compete in a space that might be largely dominated by competitors, so on and so forth. So if you're just getting into this, you want to make sure that you pay attention to some of these, because again, it's going to mean your long-term success. If you've been on an e-commerce platform for any period of time and maybe you're struggling to gain momentum, or you're just looking to obviously improve and create a better client experience, again, this is just as important for you guys. But e-commerce as a whole, really what you're looking for is that dynamic, easy to navigate web design. And I stress this because nobody likes something that's clunky and cumbersome, and you don't know where to go. If oh, well, I'm looking for this, and you're trying to figure out how to navigate it. Those create bad customer experiences, and ultimately what that's going to do is set your competitors up for success, because if their site is easy to navigate, then that's typically where consumers are going to trend. They're going to go to what's easiest for them. So make sure when you're doing this, have a bunch of different eyes on it. Don't just, and I always say this to my clients, is that sometimes we get too close to a project. If you put hours and hours and hours into something and you're just nitpicking, and it's like, okay, sometimes it's good to take a step back and have somebody else critique, give you some ideas on what they see. Even if you're a well-established store, again, that feedback is critical to your overall success. If you're a new build, then perfect. This is a great time to really get that, best site, if you will, up the first time. So dynamic, easy to navigate, probably some of the best feedback I can give you. Ideally, the elements of your website should make the shopping experience and the purchase process quick, easy, and stress-free. So let's talk about that. There's a rule of thumb in most website design, is that, a great example would be a contact form. The more information you require a user to submit, the more cumbersome it becomes, the less likely somebody is to see that contact form through to the end. So simplicity is really, really, really important. So again, they're obviously in an e-commerce platform, there's certain required fields, right? You have to know where you're shipping a product to. You have to know, obviously, payment information. So, there's givens that, we're really not going to go into because they're common sense. But for some other things, there's going to be some tips and best practices that we go into here a little later that maybe you haven't thought about. But again, we're trying to make these websites easy to navigate, stress-free, quick, nimble, whatever, analogy you want to use. You just need to make sure that, again, it's in the consumer's favor. No matter how good your reach is, how awesome your advertising is, again, a clunky site will never perform. It will never convert as well as something that is, crisp and clean. So again, just make sure when you're doing this, just think simplicity. That again, best advice we can give you there. The first thing is, now again, we're going to talk a lot about the end user, which is the consumer. So the end user, again, it's that person on the backside, our ideal target client, so on and so forth, that we really want to design our website with them in mind. So the interface, how it navigates, the structure, the overall design. I tell clients constantly, listen, I have all the tools and resources to build just a killer site. But at the end of the day, you know your clients best. I can't do my job without your knowledge. That's the fact. So really take that to heart and remember that as a business owner, you know who your target demographic is. You know exactly what their buying triggers are. If you've been in business for any length of time, you know what works, what doesn't work. You know what key visuals have a better success than others. And so that's really what we want to leverage. I'll give you a great example. We have a new client that we brought on board. Amazing, amazing business. And so they're going to market with a new product. And I got to be honest, they have put a ton of research into defining that target audience. Now, again, that doesn't mean that it's cost a ton of money. It may have taken a little bit of time to develop, but that time is well spent. And the reason being is They have a very specific demographic that they're looking to target. They have a very specific way in which they want to reach that target demographic. And they've identified alternatives that ultimately, should one not work out, or maybe a combination of them works better, they have options. And so that's really what you want to think about. So I know it's easy for me to sit back and say to a client, hey, you know, let's understand the voice of the customer. Let's understand who your target demographic is. When you really take that seriously, that's where the magic happens. Because again, if I'm targeting, let's just say, demographic 60 plus, how I design that website is going to be very different from how I design a website for somebody whose target demographic is, 20 and under. So again, the technologies we use, the integrations that we put forth, how we speak to that demographic, the content, everything changes. And so a lot of questions come in when you're designing a website is, well, I span all generations. I'll sell to anybody. That may be true, but at the core of your business, there is a target demographic. For the most part, most businesses have a target demographic that ultimately they're really looking to serve. And so that's what we put our best efforts into. So again, you can sell to anybody. That's great. E-commerce, again, doesn't discriminate. This is just, it's open to anybody and everybody. But again, who we're actually truly speaking to, that we want to be specific about. Other fun things you can do, and this is just kind of a side note, is if you are a multi-generation website, meaning, or you have a multi-generation product that you sell to multiple, again, demographics, that's great to create landing pages specific for that demographic. And that means that the advertisements, and we'll just use kind of a one-off example, but if I was selling to, let's just say I had a product that was geared towards our senior market. And so again, I might create a landing page specifically talking to the senior market that has products specifically targeted to the seniors. And then I'm going to use that for targeted advertising on things like Facebook, maybe a senior lifestyle magazine, something like that. And again, I'm directing them to a specific page that speaks to that target demographic. I'm not building necessarily the entire website around that. I'm isolating a specific landing page or landing pages to that demographic. Flip side, let's say I'm targeting, the 18, to 20-year-old crowd. Again, I'm going to build specific landing pages of that. I'm going to structure my target advertising to those pages that reaches that demographic. And then that way I've really built out a well-rounded site that appeals to all audiences. So for those that, again, have that multi-generational, there's a lot of ways to do that. So again, just try to think outside the box. But at the core, when we're designing the overall website, again, we're trying to speak to our true target demographic, and that's really what we're gearing the site towards. So again, there's other features when we talk UX design. So our consumer, when we're speaking to the consumer and how we're building this, accessibility, usability, design, all this fun stuff plays into the big picture. Next up, sophistication is not always the best. Believe me when I say I meet with a lot of businesses throughout the, obviously, months, days, years, so on and so forth. And, we don't win every contract. We don't win everybody's business, and not everybody's business is a good fit for us. And that's okay. My favorite type of proposal is always the people that come in and they want, unicorns shooting across the screen and glitter falling down from the sky and, all these like really crazy eye-catching features. But what they don't realize is that sophistication it's not always the selling feature. It's not always that engagement feature that you might think it is. We pick on car dealerships a lot because they got pop-ups, they got this, they got that. And even in recent years, car dealerships have even really kind of toned down theirs. But that's the best example to give, is that back in the day, I'll tell you what, anything was possible. I mean, you had cars shooting across the screen, you had, tire tracks running up the sides of websites, all sorts of fun stuff. And again, sure, it was eye-catching, but ultimately, did it equate to selling cars? Maybe, maybe not. I mean, I'm sure in some instances it resonated with some audiences. But now, as a society, we're looking for simplicity. And so minimalist websites, believe it or not, statistically, they have more appeal right now than, those crazy complex ones. I have sites that have chat bots and review widgets and ADA widgets and this and that and website, Facebook Messenger embedded in, and all this fun stuff. And to be honest with you, even from my perspective, it's a bit cumbersome. It's a bit overwhelming to see all these buttons and widgets and things and doodads and stuff. You know, if I'm really just there to learn maybe about a product or I'm interested in possibly purchasing it, sometimes those can be more of a distraction than an aid. So really think that through. The best example that I can give, or best scenario that I can give for clients, is that if you do want those features, that's fantastic. So do yourself a favor and create a unit of measure. So look at this, and let's just say you want Facebook Messenger, right? You want to embed that onto your website so people can communicate with you real time, so on and so forth. That's fantastic. First and foremost, you got to be willing to answer it when somebody messages you. If you're not, please don't do it. But more so than that, create that unit of measure that says, hey, if I get 10 people a month to use it, then it's worthwhile. But if I don't, then it's not, and I'm going to take it off. Because ultimately, the people that you negatively affect by having it on there might outweigh that. So again, just use some common sense in this and just say, you know, hey, if I'm not getting anybody engaging with it, like if you have a chat feature on your website and nobody's using it, get rid of it. It's not doing you any good. It might show availability. It might show, again, some sophistication, but ultimately, if not, I guarantee you those plugins, those little widgets, all these little buttons and tabs and blah, 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 they always serve to slow down websites. And so anytime we're in that position, site speed is number one. You know, we got to make sure our sites are fast, quick, nimble. Anything that slows them down, we have to weigh on that and look and see, is it worth the delay? Is it worth the lag? Or is it something we should get rid of? So just do yourself a favor. Always have that test in there. Another great way to find out, you know, what might be user-friendly and what might not be, survey your clients. You're going to hear me say that a lot. But even as a new business, survey your target demographic. If you're an existing business, you know, survey your existing clients and ask them what they would think is useful, because ultimately, most of the time, you're going to get a good response. You're going to get honest answers from these people, and it's going to help drive your business in the right direction. So don't be afraid to reach out and ask your clients what they would find useful. So next up, view cart. You'd be amazed at how many existing e-commerce sites we look at, and a simple view cart button isn't even available. It's okay, you know, it happens. It's not a part of every builder, believe it or not. Not all e-commerce platforms have them. So, you know, you just got to be mindful of that. The view cart button, and again, I made a giant one for you, but when we look at this, you know, you need to make sure that you have that. Statistically speaking, it's one of the most important components of an e-commerce website. Reason being is within that button, let's just say I'm browsing around and I find a product that I'm looking for, but you know what? I'm not quite sure I want to get it. So I'm going to add it to my cart, but I'm going to keep browsing, right? And so if I don't have that view cart feature, well, then I might not know exactly what's in my cart. You know, it's just that feel good comfort that, you know, it's there, it's safe, it's reassuring for consumers. So just make sure you have it. It's very, very, very important. Again, when you look at statistics, it 100% weighs in that favor. Let's see here. Simplify your pricing. This is a big one for e-commerce platforms because this is a frustrating part for most consumers. And we're going to get to a graph at the very end that talks about abandoned carts, and you're going to see how important pricing is in that. But one of the biggest frustrations consumers have is that when they're looking at websites, when they're comparing prices, because again, that's one of the downfalls of e-commerce is that, yep, you can compare pretty much any product you want on Amazon and Walmart.com and this and that and blah, blah, blah. Tons and tons and tons of resources out there for consumers. So ultimately, people want to know that they're getting the best deal. Well, the best deal doesn't always come in the form of a price tag. The best deal could be service. It could be, you know, like hundreds of things. And so this is where simplifying your pricing becomes super important. If you are not trying to be the bottom of the barrel, lowest priced option out there, then you need to do your job and sell your product with all the benefits and features that you bring to the table. That's tough for some businesses, you know, but you really got to remember when you're selling something online, you are the expert in that product. You are the one that can speak to anything and everything about that, or at least you should be. That's what consumers trust you for. That's why consumers come to you. Otherwise, you better be the Amazon of the business and you better come in at a rock bottom price. So features and benefits come in multiple forms. Back to pricing is when we look at things, what we don't want to do is we don't want to have multiple prices out there. And what that means is that you don't want to find a coupon over here for this on this website that offers 10% off. But then here's another coupon over here that offers 20% off. And then, oh, you know what? I found a Valpak ad that offered 50% off my first order. That stuff gets really, really frustrating. Now, I'm going to pick on a big box retailer here for a minute, and I'm going to pick on Michaels. Now, I love Michaels. My wife loves Michaels. I love their little holiday houses and stuff like that. We buy them every year, so they get a fair chunk of my money, let's just say. But one of the things that's frustrating to me is their couponing system. Now, they are ones that they have dug deep into that, and they're very good at it, quite honestly. They send out coupons and enticements all the time to get you in their store. Oh, look at this, 40% off one item, little asterisk over there that says non-sale prices. So, they lure you in with this. And one of the things that always gets me is when I look there, oh man, I thought I had a 40% off coupon. Now I find myself shuffling, with my wife with this giant full cart of arts and crafts stuff. And, here I'm trying to search for this little coupon. That gets really, really frustrating. So from an e-commerce perspective, put that into perspective and think about the same thing. Do you want your target audience scrambling to find coupons, discounts, and deals? Because ultimately, that's going to translate into them leaving. That's going to translate in them to find the rock bottom price somewhere else. Or is there an opportunity to sell them on the features and benefits of the item, establishing you as the expert, and ultimately they'll pay the asking price? That's a much better business model than going into the Amazon, because again, Amazon's business model is such that they actually lose money on certain products. And I mean, there's tons of write-ups on this. There's tons of, documentation around their strategy or perceived strategy that I'll tell you, it's amazing when you really look at it that, I forget what the number is, but there's a large percentage of sales that go on within Amazon that are actually losers for them. But they sacrifice those sales for the betterment of the business because they know you're coming back for these other ones. So think about that. That's a really tough business model to compete in, especially as a small business. So for me, I'd rather establish myself as the expert. I'd rather provide those tools and resources that consumers are looking for, such as product tutorials, amazing dynamic pictures. Again, we'll talk about those in a minute. But those are the things that ultimately will help support and justify the value that you placed on that product, which is ultimately the price. Next up, avoiding distractions. So we kind of already talked about this with, the pop-ups and the unicorns and the glitter and, all the fun stuff that you see on sites. Really, your site should be focused on generating sales. That's really what we're doing. Highlighting and accenting and doing stuff like that is great as long as it translates into additional sales. Everything, when you look at a website, it's a living, breathing object. That's truly how we treat them nowadays, is because when you get it right, and this is the tough part for small business because this does take time, but it's either you invest the time or hire somebody who can, because like I said, if you're in it to win it and you're in it for the long-term success of the business, this is what it takes to be successful in an e-commerce world. Again, constant testing, retesting, triple testing, changing this, doing that. I mean, again, we make for our clients, I don't have an exact number, but I would venture to say thousands of changes a week on websites. And again, sometimes it can get frustrating. Sometimes you look at it and you're like, really? That just seems so inconsequential. But at the end of the day, that's what it takes to be successful, is that you test, you retest, you do different things, ultimately to hopefully see that increase in sales. And believe it or not, it works. It really, really does. So when we look at this, it's nice to include additional information like, your story, blogs, or, options for people to sign up for newsletters. Those are always good things. Just make sure that stuff is not the front and center, if you will. Now, I'm going to put an asterisk on this too, because with any small business, it's all about telling a story. That's truly what we do. As small business owners, again, we are experts in our craft. We are experts in our products and services. And so that really needs to be front and center. We really need to establish ourselves as the authority on the matter. That ultimately will translate into $2. But with that said, we also need to make sure that we have a balance between how we feature our products and how, basically us selling our products, and how we're describing ourselves and selling ourselves. So again, it's all about balance with this. what we avoid again is too many pop-ups, all these extra pieces that they just don't necessarily always translate into a purchase. So like contact page, or at the bottom of your homepage, people can fill out and join your email list. We're good with that. Just again, avoid that pop-up. That's an unnecessary thing. Unless your goal is to get people to sign up, that's ultimately what you're selling. You're trying to develop a list. Well, then that makes sense. But overall, if you're trying to sell a product, probably not the best use of your space. That pop-up would be better served with the product that you're looking to sell. Let's see here. Other ones, repeat it. Oh, so this is another great one. I forget the example. I wish I was better prepared for that, but I just thought of one not too long ago. This may be a month or so ago. I was on a website looking to purchase an item, and long story short of it was, clicked on the item. Okay, great. Wasn't quite interested at the time, just doing a little bit of research. And I'll tell you what, throughout my navigation of that website, different pop-ups kept coming up about that product, because obviously they have some type of widget, bot, whatever it is on there that, calculated that I was interested in this product for X amount of time, blah, blah, blah. There's a lot of sophisticated tools out there, but they kept popping up. Oh, and then at one point it was offering me a 5% off coupon or something like that to purchase now. And, it got really distracting. And it got to the point where, okay, I'm done. Like, I've done my research on it. Now I'm a little more familiar. I'm out of here. Like, if I'm ready, I'll come back. It just didn't create any urgency. I'll tell you that. So that for them was an abandoned cart, and again, it had to do with that just level of annoyance that they gave me. So keep that in mind, think that through. That's sometimes not a great thing. So when in doubt, and again, pop-ups also slow down sites. So just think about that. If you don't need it, if it's not really providing any value to the business, I would avoid doing it. Like we alluded to earlier, don't go cheap on the photos. I can't stress this enough. There is nothing, a crappy photo is not going to sell anything unless you are just giving it away for free. I'll tell you what, it devalues your product. There's so many negatives. I'm not even going to go into them all. Just do yourself a favor. Photo, just make sure they're professional. Make sure, a lot of the times you can work with manufacturers, wholesalers, suppliers to get those photos. They don't always have to be, something that you produce per se. Although I will say a lot of customization can happen, a lot of authenticity can happen from the actual retailer, meaning that, you provide the local look and feel for it maybe. So again, if it's a clothing item or something like that, lots of different examples here, but if you can't do it or you don't have the resources to take a picture, go the next level up. That's going to be your supplier or possibly the manufacturer. But eventually get to the point where, you have those high quality photos. And really any and all industries are susceptible to this. I have yet to meet one that at least somewhere up in the chain, there wasn't some high quality dynamic photo available that a retailer could use. So just think that one through. Another one is going to be the videos. Now we talked about this in the previous class, was those video tutorials. Those are like gold right now, because again, there's a lot of concern and hesitation with COVID and, all that fun stuff. And so people are struggling to get that touch, that feel, if you will, about a product. And so the next best way is going to be video. And then third best is photos. So if you can produce a video and your e-commerce platform supports it, I'll tell you what, that's like money in the bank. That is a fantastic option. Being able to demo, just again, turn, twist, look under the cover type stuff. That's what motivates clients. It makes it feel they generate a connection with that product. So when in doubt, try to do a photo. It doesn't have to be you even. Again, you can work with your uplines on this stuff. You can work with your suppliers, your manufacturers and wholesalers to produce this type of material. Now, ultimately, then it becomes public use. I'm sure your competition can then use it too. But if you can produce it on your own, that's going to be awesome. So just think that through. Product reviews. Again, not all e-commerce platforms offer it, but some do, most do, in fact. And so it's a huge, huge, huge thing right now where it builds that trust factor, if you will, with the product. So again, along with the touchy, looky, feely stuff, you got to have that community aspect of it, that community, review, if you will, or other customer review. It builds that credibility of your product. It builds that comfort with consumers that, okay, 5,000 other people bought this product and man, they got a handful of bad reviews, but the majority is positive. So that's good. So just make sure that you keep that in mind. If you have the option to do it, again, make sure you enable that feature. Now, with that also comes a level of responsibility on your part to make sure that you provide accurate, trustworthy reviews. What you don't want to do is have your friends, neighbors, and whoever else just leave random reviews that they didn't really buy the product. Ultimately, that stuff, people can sniff through it. You can, not in every case, but in most cases, you can see whether somebody has genuinely purchased that product or they haven't. You can see if, right through those, oh, this was the greatest thing in the world and blah, blah, blah. I've seen reviews before where it didn't even pertain to the product. And you're like, really? It's just, and it looks really bad on your business. So do yourself a favor. Just, again, we want genuine, unsolicited, or they can't be solicited, but we want genuine reviews is really what we're getting at. So be sure to reach out to your clients after a purchase. If you don't have an automated system that does this, invest in some time, staff time that, hey, you follow up with Mary Lewis who just bought this and such product and see if you can send her a link to give you a review, or maybe even just remind her about leaving a review online. Even if you have customers in store, if you're still doing like regular retail business, and let's just say you encourage somebody to go buy something online, again, make sure that they understand that they can leave a review on your website about that product or service. So that's a really, really, really big thing. And there's also some SEO benefits, let's just say, as a result of that as well. Next up, and again, we kind of already talked about this, but the organization and navigation. So this kind of reiterates what we talked about before, but you got to make it easy to navigate. That I just can't stress that enough. Anything that's cumbersome, weighted, that just requires people to put a whole lot of thought into it, it's just probably not going to end well for you. So do yourself a favor and make sure it's streamlined. Have a very easy to navigate menu bar that is full of drop downs and quick links and all sorts of stuff. What you don't want to do is have a menu bar that drops down to something else, and then now you have another sub menu which goes into another sub menu, which ultimately leads you to another sub menu that has products on it. It's too many. Like, it should be one single drop down for each line item on your menu. That's it. Try to really avoid sub menus if possible. Sometimes it's unavoidable, especially with very, very large e-commerce sites. Sometimes it's inevitable, and again, that comes back to those acceptable sacrifices we have to make. But for the most part, for most small businesses, not the case. So avoid drop downs if at all possible. Try to make things as quick and nimble as possible. That'll serve you best in the long run. Scarcity. So this kind of touches on a pricing model a little bit. Scarcity is what it is. I don't like to use the word manipulation, but in a sense, that's what we're doing. We are convincing people to get out of their own way. How about that? That's a better way to put it. When we talk about scarcity, so again, limited quantity means scarcity. It compels action. It warrants or invites purchases. So does that mean every product is now, oh, we only got one left? No, that's not what we're saying, because then you just look ridiculous. But on items that are, you want to move, you want to create some additional attention to, this is a tactic that you can use to ultimately increase your sales. So a great example that we use when we do e-commerce sites, at least on every product page, so depending on how many products there are, so on and so forth, we will always have at least one product that shows sold out. And that's by purpose, because we want to show that, hey, people are purchasing from us. It gives people that vote of confidence that, hey, this is a trafficked website. Otherwise, you really don't have much to go on. So it's all about psychology. So we're showing people that people are purchasing. We're creating that scarcity with other products. Again, it ultimately will translate into sales. Now, again, I have to stress this. Every product does not go like limited quantity. Not every product are you going to have that problem. So again, that just makes, it makes it look set up, and that just defeats the entire purpose. So we really focus on products you want to move, maybe high profit items, stuff like that. Again, and it's designed to just help people get out of their own way, because sometimes we do a little bit too much research. Sometimes we need just a little bit too much hand-holding, if you will. And so this will compel those people that maybe are on the fence to take that leap of faith and make that purchase. So again, we are ethical, moral businesses. And so we want to make sure that we're doing the right thing all the time by our clients. And so that's why, again, when used properly, this can create that action that ultimately will create, a sense of satisfaction with a client. All right, next up here, contact info. I will tell you this, you would be amazed at how many websites we come across that do not have contact info, or it's extremely difficult to find the contact info. Do yourself a favor, put your contact info. Ultimately, if you stand behind your product, this is just an easy no-brainer. You need to have it. I understand there are hesitations behind that from some businesses, especially ones that have, let's just say, high volume sales. You may not be able to field all the calls. You'll have to balance your operations however you balance them. But I will tell you this, at a bare minimum, the expectation is email. Best practice, always phone call. People, anytime we can get the phone, not only does that almost guarantee the sale, but that provides just the absolute best possible customer service. The ones that we don't recommend, you'll see a lot of businesses nowadays going to social media for sales, like, again, messengers and Twitter and Facebook and all this stuff where you can leave questions, comments, concerns, and stuff like that. For me personally, as a business owner, I find that more difficult to manage. I find that it's just way too much for me. I don't personally want to do that to another business. I would want to make sure that my issues are my issues and they don't necessarily translate into issues for other people. And I certainly wouldn't want to detract from a sale, no matter how mad I may get. I don't want to take away from their business. So, I tend to avoid social, but again, if that works best for you, if that's a good avenue for you, you always have that. You can install messenger widgets, so on and so forth. There's a lot of different social options available now from a customer service standpoint. And let's see here. Last but certainly not least, reasons for abandoned carts. This is, I chuckle at some of these because they just seem like common sense, but a lot of businesses don't understand why people abandon their carts. So let's go through them. So preferred payment option, bank transfer, debit card, PayPal, Google Checkout. We're seeing less and less of that, so that's not such a concern anymore. But I will tell you this, a lot of times, especially with GPay, Apple Pay, stuff like that, those are more modern technologies. Venmo, I forget, my wife gave me another one the other day Zelle or something. Anyway, but long story short is, there's a lot of payment options out there, and it's all about convenience for a client. So think that through. You might want to consider what options your merchant services offer, make sure that those options are available on your website, and more so make sure that you're prepared to accept them. So a lot of the times there might be a secondary step or something that's involved with it, but we want to make it so easy to do business with you that, again, a client has no other reason to shop around. Next up, I didn't want to register or create an account to make a purchase. Privacy is privacy. You got a lot of people out there that are very headstrong about it. Other ones that, they just, whatever. So really think that through. A lot of times, most carts offer, or most e-commerce platforms offer some type of guest option. Some don't. So, you're just to play through that. But most of the time we recommend, at a bare minimum, you need the necessary fields that we talked about earlier, like name, address, phone number, email, stuff like that to complete the purchase. But if it's optional, I've seen websites before that, they ask for your date of birth or your this or that, just to try to make sure that they have some data on you, like, and again, best of intentions, maybe they just want to send you a birthday card. Sometimes that can distract or detract for people. So you just want to avoid those when possible. A lot of times you'll see platforms now going to just providing the month instead of the month, date, and year. They'll just ask for the month, and then the default value in your CRM would be like, if you were born on August 10th of 1970, it would be just 8/1 of 1900, something like that, just so that you have the month in there so you can send out that card. So just pro tip there. Next up, estimated shipping time was too long for the amount I wanted to pay. You can thank Amazon for that. Amazon has just set some wild expectations for the world, for the e-commerce world, I'll tell you, and we're just as guilty of it myself. When we look at things, honestly, if it takes over 2 days, I'm probably frustrated. I'm probably not happy about that because we have this sense of immediate gratification in this world. We want things now, now, now. And especially with same day delivery coming out with Amazon in most markets, I mean, it's crazy. Funny story, we were up at our in-laws house up in Oregon. And I'll tell you, when you order Amazon up there, it has to go, from wherever it comes from over to the local postal service, then the local postal service to try to deliver it to you, which never gets done in time. So, there is no 2-day option there. I mean, it's like a 1-week option to get to you. So, and again, I wouldn't even say they're in some like crazy rural area. It's a reasonable sized town. So, just remember, we're kind of spoiled here in the major metros where we do have that immediate gratification, that immediate 1-day delivery. Just make sure that, you have set the right expectations with consumers up front. Sometimes as small businesses, it's not practical for us to do that. Our shipping costs become insurmountable and there's no margin to be made. So I have plenty of clients that when they ship products, it's flat rate. And so that way, postal service is pretty much a guaranteed 2 to 3 day delivery in most cases. Again, just set that expectation up front. And then again, there's a pricing model that you can adopt that either rolls shipping costs in or you separate them out. I'm indifferent to either way because I don't know that I have any statistics that show me one way is more successful than the other. I do know, again, with Amazon, I think people are more accustomed to having the just free shipping, but that doesn't mean that that's always the right way. So just make sure, again, hear the voice of your customer. You need to make sure that you keep that open line of communication. I always say with a lot of these e-commerce platforms now, they have an abandoned cart reply that will automatically send an email out to a client should they be able to capture it, or should they navigate off. Let's just say you tried to close out the website or the web window, it'll create a little pop-up real quick and just, again, a 1 or 2 question survey. Sometimes you'll get some valuable feedback on that. So back to shipping though, just make sure that you are as transparent as possible ahead of the purchase because ultimately that'll create a better user experience long-term. Shipping and handling costs were listed too late during the checkout process. That pretty much falls exactly in line with what we just talked about. Next up was my order was vague. My order value was large enough to qualify for my order value wasn't, large enough to qualify for free shipping. That is an inherent problem with businesses that do the, orders over $99 and you get free shipping. That can work out in your favor and that can work against you. It's, it is what it is. There's not a perfect science there. The example that I give, I have a gourmet wear store here in Scottsdale that, they do flat rate shipping. And I understand as a business owner, that's really tough to offer free shipping, especially when some of your products are $3, $5, and $10. I mean, to eat $5 in shipping, you probably don't have any margin on that at all. I mean, you're basically selling things for free. So you got to make sure that, things make sense. There's a couple great plugins on e-commerce platforms. If you didn't know this, one of them's like Shippo. We use a couple of them out there, but they can get some really good prices on shipping. So food for thought, you might want to think that one through. But again, you might want to try to avoid those $99 in free shipping. Then again, it might be that acceptable, number. I don't know. That's going to come down to your individual business and each circumstance. Next up is I was not ready to purchase, wanted to save the cart for later. That's pretty much common sense. That happens a lot. People just doing product research, stuff like that. They want comparisons. A really great way to do that is offered now and that is encouraged is on a lot of e-commerce platforms, there are comparison features. And if you don't have a comparison feature on your particular cart, you might want to look at another platform for that. But those are fantastic. When people want to compare products side by side, instead of hitting the back button and clicking on this product and hitting the back button, clicking on the other product or printing them out or any of that, a lot of the times you'll find comparison tools now. So again, it's all about ease of use and, giving customers the right tools and resources. Next up was not ready to purchase, but wanted to get an idea of the total cost for shipping. Again, very, very common one. I don't even know that that's unavoidable per se, other than, again, some platforms offer that, already ready to go cart system on the right-hand side that, or left-hand side, depending on which what you do. But again, there are some platforms that have features on them that offer that kind of transparency, if you will. So that's another good one. And then shipping costs made the total purchase out. So again, shipping costs are obviously, you can see a big reason why people abandon carts. And again, a lot of that has to do with Amazon. A lot of that has to do with their pricing model and how things work. It is what it is. So we have to adapt to that. When we add shipping costs in, sometimes it is what it is. And it's, going to throw that purchase out of the realm of what that person's willing to do. And again, it might be just one of those acceptable losses. Otherwise, if this is happening too frequently, then you might want to take a, deeper dive into things. But again, all of this, you got to put into perspective as if it's a onesie twosie thing, maybe we look into it, maybe we give some consideration, but again, might not compel action. If it's happening consistently and you have a consistent unit of measure behind it, then yes, absolutely, it's time to take a look at this stuff. So I know that's a ton of information, and we're coming up on our hour, so I hope I still have people tuned into this. But I think the general rule of thumb is when we look at e-commerce sites, again, there's a million different ways to do things, and there's a million different ways not to do things. If you need advice, you need help, again, free of charge, give us a call. Help us, let us help you. We can provide a ton of information. We're right here at the Tech Accelerator and Surprise. This is our 9 to 5. This is what we do. So take advantage of our tons and tons of useless information. It's just, there's so many ways to do things. And maybe we can offer you a suggestion, tip, or something that can make all the difference in the world for your business. So.
Well, thank you, Chris. That was a great presentation. I have to say, I have carts everywhere because I start filling things just because I get all these. I'll be on Facebook and I'll see something that looks really cool, but I want to get information on it, but I have to put it in the cart, and then I see how long it's going to take to get delivered, and then I try to see if they have it on Amazon. So I'm totally guilty of that on the cart phase.
Yep. We've all done it.
So, and then I get an email, something went wrong. You haven't checked out. I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to check out because I don't want to wait 2 weeks. I want it yesterday. And if I can find it on Amazon, even if it's $5 more, I'll buy it on there because I'll get it faster, which is, I guess, on my part, not being super supportive of small business. So I'll have to change my way of thinking.
I don't even know it's, a lot of the times, and this is what us as small businesses need to remember is, we have to be competitive and we have to be able to justify our value. There are shoppers out there that, yes, they are looking for the couponers or the people that are looking for the lowest price. And, we have to either want to compete with that or we have to look at something else. We have to look at another option. So it's all about justifying the value, because right now, especially with where we're at in society, is that there's a lot of people out there willing to pay for customer service. And I'll tell you what, if you've ever tried to call Amazon for customer service, it's not always the best experience. I'm not going to knock them and say they're terrible, but it's not always as user-friendly as people would maybe like it to be. And so we have to think about that. Us as small businesses, well, we provide a, pretty awesome service, and we need to justify that to people.
Yeah, and actually, I will say I have bought things because if I can't find it on Amazon and I really, really want it, then, I'll get it. But it's hard, reading reviews. A lot of times you order something that if you would have read the reviews, you may not have ordered it.
Yep.
So anyway, that was super, super informative. And I think I know there were some Q&A comments here that a lot of people do the same thing with the carts. It looks good at the moment, then you get busy, and then you go back later and you're like, oh, do I really need this? But it's kind of spooky because every ad I get on Facebook, it's like, oh my gosh, I need that. Like, that is so me. So it's a little creepy, but
my favorite are the people that scan barcodes in stores. That is, I see that stuff all the time, and I'm not going to lie, I've done it myself. So, but it's one of those things that's kind of what we're being conditioned to as a, society right now. So again, it's our job to, justify that to the consumers and justify our value and why we're asking for a certain price and ultimately or how the product commands a certain price, and you go from there.
And it is funny, like I take my brother, for example, but he's got a lot of time on his hands. He'll go to like 5 different stores to get a deal. Me, I'm going to one store, unless it's a huge difference. I'm not going to waste my time, going to 5, 6 different stores just to buy something I need. But I will say my brother does find some really good deals, but if you want to spend half your day, I guess where that value comes in. But thank you so much. This was a really, really good session. I really enjoyed it. I almost want to start selling stuff and try to figure out a business so I can put together a website and, do that. That would be really cool. Anyway, if anyone has any questions or you missed something and you want to go back and watch this again, it is recorded, so you can find it on the Surprise Economic Development YouTube channel. And also you have Chris's information and my contact information. You can contact us as well. And we don't have any webinars scheduled for next week because it's a holiday week and Thanksgiving. I hope everybody has a wonderful Thanksgiving. And Chris will be back with us the following week, and we will be talking about relationship marketing, like how to market or how to network in a virtual world, which I know we're all very virtual right now. So that'll be great, and that's on December 3rd. And thank you very much, Chris.
All right. Thank you, Julie. Have a great day. Thanks for having us.
You too. Thank you, everybody.